Welcome to The Ripple Effect with Soria, where we discuss personal development, the entrepreneurial journey, and impact. Here is your host, Armando Soria.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Ripple Effect with Soria. Of course, I am not Armando Soria, but we have a special guest, which is Armando Soria.
What's up, guys?
For those that don't know me, my name is Tony Sanchez. I own a couple different businesses, but if you want to get to know me, go to episode 2. But
That's right.
Armando,
what's up?
Here
buddy?
we are. The tables have turned.
The tables have turned.
Turntables.
The turntables.
The turntables. So, welcome to your podcast.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
This is pretty cool. Tony and I have had several conversations over the phone and in person, talking about how sometimes we get we have the privilege of interviewing some amazing guests on the show, but we haven't necessarily done that great of a job sharing my story and my journey, and that's part of why we're here. So here we are.
Yeah, so that's something that, like you said, we kind of always have these conversations, like we mentioned before. Like we're always on the phone with each other and talking, and we always have these little gems, and we're like, damn, we should have hit record or something. So,
yeah.
I think this is going to be one of many that we're going to probably do. But let's just get straight to it. You've always interviewed, all of us. Let's talk about you. Where did you start? Where did you start, and what where are you at today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great question, Tony. You're a fantastic host, buddy. So I started this career. I started in this industry in 2011. I had just graduated the fire academy, and I was trying to pursue a career in the fire service. And I unfortunately had the fortune of graduating in 2010. So the economy still hadn't recovered from 2008. So municipalities were actually laying off firefighters, not hiring. And so whenever I had an opportunity to apply to a position, I was applicant 1 of 1,000 for one position. And they would literally cut the applicant lot at 1,000 applicants. And rightfully so, those positions would go to firefighters that had experience that were just unfortunately laid off. So I needed a job. I was dating my now wife at the time, but we were engaged. We were, we had big plans of marriage and house and everything else. And we needed to get, I needed a job.
Yeah.
I needed a job.
That's important.
I needed a job.
Yeah.
And so I hopped on Craigslist, believe it or not, and I searched fire. And I don't know what was going to pop up. Yeah. I should have been more careful with that. But of course, fire damage restoration popped up. And so I looked at it. It said demolition. It said overtime. And I was sold. That's all it took. That was pretty easy. So I applied, and it's really funny because I showed up, because I had just gone through the fire academy. So I had gone through all this training on how to interview. So I showed up with like a binder, what I mean, in a suit for basically a general labor position, I got offered the job at $13.50 an hour as a starting technician for a local restoration company out of Watsonville, California. And I fell in love with the industry, man. I loved it. I loved the camaraderie of being in the shit with the guys and asses and elbows and just, tearing out drywall. I mean, of course, not like you see on TV with the sledgehammer. Although I will say that on my first job, the lead put me against the wall and he goes, "All right, dude, see that wall right there? We need to tear it out, floor to ceiling." Yeah. Man, this is almost embarrassing at this point, but you know what? No experience, right? I get the hammer and I just start gnawing on it, man. I'm just pounding away at the wall and I'm just grabbing and ripping and man, I'm just tearing it up. I'm sweating. We're wearing, a respirator and suit and just tearing it all out. I looked like a powdered donut. The room looked like it was covered in dust. I had a pile of rubble next to me. Yeah. I turned around. The guy I was working with, he was like a 52-year-old man, Don Andres. I remember him well. I turned around and Don Andres, who was working on the adjacent wall, had a very nice pile of these large sheets of sheetrock because he was actually cutting them out and just pulling them off. And I was over here working like a jackass.
Yeah. Making a big old mess.
So anyway, that was my first demo job, but I fell in love with it, man. And the overtime was nice. And, I was always willing to work. I was always willing to respond after hours. And so I made pretty good money. And I was like, man, this is pretty good. The best part about it was they allowed me to continue to apply to other municipalities to become a firefighter. They were in alignment. The owners were great, Sharon and Vince DeAndrea, and they were very gracious and allowed me to apply. They were actually supporting my dream,
right. But
it didn't happen. And after a year and a half of trying, sounds like I was trying to have a kid. After a year and a half of trying, I talked to my fiance, now wife, Marisol, and I said, hey, this is kind of tough, And she's like, well, would you consider moving out of state? And I said, well, yeah, our family's here, but sure. I'm like, sure. Yeah. So she suggested Texas because her sister had just moved out there, and they moved to Katy, Texas, which is the suburb of Houston. And so I said, okay. So I thought to myself, the first thing I need to do is get a job that when I touch down, I'll be working. So I looked online. I was working for a national franchise, Serve Pro. And luckily there's over 1,700 franchises or whatever at the time. And so I found one that was nearby where I was going to go. I applied, of course, because of the experience. They went ahead and called me like that day that I emailed the resume and offered me the job that day. And that afternoon, I gave a 2 weeks notice. And 2 weeks later, I packed all my crap in the back of a truck and I left. My wife was still in nursing school here in Salinas. So, fiance at the time. Yeah. This was in June of 2012. We got married in September of 2012. So I went ahead again before the marriage, and I started working while I was applying to fire departments in Texas. Right before the wedding, or not right before, but while I was there, a couple of different things happened. I got in a car accident, so the money that I had raised, I lost it because I totaled the truck, so I had to go buy a car. So I was kind of bummed out. I was frustrated, and I wanted to find a job that was going to pay me more. So I quit my job that had hired me. I was just looking after the dollars. And I went in and this is like in end of July, August. So I hadn't connected very well with my coworkers or my employer at the time. I just, came in, walked in, I gave them a letter of resignation. I'm not very proud of it because that's not how you do things. But I was almost in desperation mode because I was about to get married and I lost all the money that I had saved, and I got offered this job that paid more hourly. So I resigned. The owner of that Serpro, Mr. Mark Hart, who is a mentor of mine, he chased me down the hallway because he was on the phone, and I just kind of slipped a letter of resignation. He chased me down the hallway and goes, "Hey, wait, what are you doing? There's a hurricane coming." Well, coming from California, like we don't jack with hurricanes. We're like, okay, cool. Like, what's that mean? Sure. Well, he said, I was gonna send you to Louisiana, and you're going to work more hours than you've probably ever worked in your life. And I've seen your work, and I was actually going to promote you to project manager. At this point, I'm like, oh, here we go. Right. Here comes the carrot. But I'm like, well, look, this is what happened. This is my situation, which is what I should have done from the beginning. Yeah. But anyway, he tells me, look, I could give you a little bit of a pay increase now, but believe me, with the overtime that you're going to work in Louisiana, because we're going to travel to this hurricane, you're going to make up for that and more. And additionally, I want you to be my next project manager. I was definitely interested, but at the same time, what was happening outside of work was I had just submitted an application to a local fire department that actually called back and was bringing me on as a paid call firefighter. So it was like a volunteer, but you get paid for your miles or your time, whatever, per fire. I don't know, it's kind of weird. Yeah. But it was going to lead to a permanent position. They were going to transfer all my certifications. So that happened. I decided not to quit. I decided to go to Louisiana in August. This is for Hurricane Isaac, I believe, in 2012. We worked. We made the money back. Everything that dude promised me happened, except for the promotion, because I still didn't know when that was going to be. I was looking at that as a carrot, but I was still going to pursue the firefighter thing. Well, I got back literally cause we left in August for that hurricane work, and I got back like a week before my wedding. Right, from Louisiana to Texas a week before the wedding. So just in time to get on a plane and fly back
Sure.
and spend the week here and do all
Yeah.
our things. The wedding went off without a hitch. Everything was great.
Good.
And our honeymoon was spent, bless my wife's heart, it was spent driving from California to Texas with, like basically the move.
The move, yeah.
And it was fun. We had some great stops. We stopped in Palm Springs. We stopped in Las Cruces, New Mexico, maybe Phoenix one night. Then we stopped in San Antonio, and we loved it so much. We stayed another night in San Antonio. And then when we were on our way from San Antonio to Houston, that's when my boss called me, Mark Hart called me, and he goes, "Hey, when you get back, you're my new project manager." And I'm like, okay. He's a man of his word. Look at that. It wasn't just a carrot. So I got back and I went to work, and it was like a week into it from being a married man now. So now we're like in October, right? We got married on the 22nd of September. So in October, we didn't waste any time, and we found out she was pregnant with Sophia, our first daughter. It happened kind of quick. There's like 3 weeks in between.
A lot of stuff is happening real quick.
Yeah, man, that's our life, right? Everything's like bam, bam, bam.
It.
So I'm thinking I need to make money. You know what I mean? And as much as I wanted to do the firefighter thing, I decided to take the promotion, go to New Jersey, and I was supposed to be gone for 2 weeks. So I'm thinking, okay, fire department. It was Willow Forks Fire Department. I called them and I said, "Hey, I'm still out here." They said, "Well, how long are you going to be?" I said, "Well, it's going to be like 2 weeks." I was gone for 3 months. I was gone from the beginning of October, didn't get back till maybe my math is wrong, but I got back basically the week before Christmas.
Oh, wow.
And the best thing happened. Like, I never bitched. I never complained. I handled it, man. I worked my ass off for that company, blood, sweat, and tears, literally, like,
right.
Everyone around me like was falling apart and crying because they missed home, all this. I held the team together. We worked a large loss. It was the largest project that we just happened to land. It was over $500,000 project for an oil refinery. And I took care of it, man. Not single-handedly. It was a big team effort. But that's when Mark, out of nowhere, he gave, paychecks come, direct deposit, and there was a bonus. And I'm like, ooh. And then the next week came, there was another bonus. And I'm like, whoa. It was like a $2,000 bonus. Then there was another $2,000 bonus. The next week came, another $2,000 bonus. And I'm like, what's going on, right? I'm still in New Jersey, right? Then I get back and he finally talks to me. He goes, "Hey, you notice anything about your checks?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" He goes, "Armando, look, I'm going to bonus you out. I think it was like $12,000. For me, it's huge, right?
Yeah.
Huge for anybody." He goes, "This is to show you that there's money to be made in this industry. But most importantly, you worked your ass off. You didn't bitch. You never once cried to come home. You held it together, man. I'm putting my franchise tag on you, and I want you to become our operations manager." And I'm like, okay.
That's huge.
I don't know what that meant.
Right,
I'm like, all right, sure, right.
Yeah.
More bonuses?
Yeah,
right?
more bonuses coming.
So from that point on, man, I traveled the country. I was gone 6 months out of the year for about 3 years or so. I mean, it was pretty wild. I missed maybe not 3 years, maybe 2, I don't know. But point is, I was gone a lot, and I missed phases in my wife, in my kids' growth that I'm really upset about. It kind of hurts a little bit, like that I missed out so much.
Sure.
But I was providing. We did the thing. But through all that work, all that missing out, all that effort that I put in, which was, valuable experience for sure. I was also mentoring other franchises. So I had the role of a mentor, which is why I love coaching and all that. Yeah. Not coaching, but, training and all that. I loved what I was doing, but after experiencing all that time lost experience and helping other business owners kind of run their thing, I had the burning desire to want to do my own, have my own company. Sure. Yeah. At the time, I thought that was going to look like my own franchise. My best friend down in Texas, Jared Richards, who owns Serpro of North Central San Antonio, he decided to go off on his own. He was my coworker, and he decided to go off on his own. So he opened up his franchise, and he asked me to go with them, and we would do a profit sharing type deal. I thought that I had made it, man. I thought I was a business owner. Right, yeah. It was profit sharing, but I thought I owned it. You know what I mean? So I went out with him, and we had another successful year there in San Antonio. My wife wasn't very happy because I uprooted us to go to this adventure of business ownership. But we had a game plan. to then like open up another franchise, and I would be majority owner of that, and kind of just talking about a bunch of different options.
Right.
But because the wife wasn't happy with the move, and she had very good reasons, we were considering our family, considering our security and everything else. Like we had a nice home in Houston. She had a great career in Houston. We talked about it, and we came up with the decision to come back here. We come back here because we couldn't go back to Houston because we had renters there. And if we were ever going to have an opportunity to move back to California, this was going to be it.
All right.
And so we took it. So we came back to California in 2018, I believe, 2018. And I was working for a local franchise here. And I loved it, but I already had that taste of almost ownership, right?
Yeah.
And man, I loved it. I thought I loved it. I didn't understand it, man. I was just doing the operational stuff. I had no idea what invoicing looked like, what the books looked like. I mean, there was so much that I would
What's a P&L?
Yeah, dude, I was completely ignorant. So my mad respect to Jared, because he just kind of took it in stride. I'm like, yeah, man, we're doing this. He's like, yeah, we are. Right? Well, sure enough, man. Finally, the timing was right. We sold our house in Texas. We were able to pay off some debt. I had bought a piece of equipment, so I started this company when I sold. I had a barbecue pit too. I had this big trailer. I wanted to go into barbecue.
That's right. Yeah, that's another thing.
That's another thing.
That's another.
But I sold that trailer. COVID kind of shut that dream down. But I wanted to do barbecue on the side, so I bought this trailer. And I sold that trailer, man. So I had $1,500, man, and I used it to buy our first piece of equipment. And then I started doing some side hustle with it, not imposing over my current employer. It was completely a different vertical that we didn't offer, but that was it, man. I started jonesing even more. So once we sold the house in Houston and paid off some debt, the wife gave me the green light, man. And that was it. That's all I needed, man. And it was a hard one to chew on because we had all these different opinions. We were, dad saying, hey, dude, what are you doing? You're going to quit your good job where you're at, and you're going to go off on this adventure. Like paycheck's not guaranteed, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, my dad's like my best friend. So of course I'm listening. I'm like, I don't want to disappoint him. You know what I mean? Like maybe he's right. But, and then same thing with my father-in-law. Of course, he's looking after the well-being of the family. He's like, what are you doing, jackass?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Right?
I think it's kind of like where, we were actually just discussing about Gary Vaynerchuk. He said it, he said it best. A lot of people are in your ear, but sometimes you just got to do what's in your heart and just go with it.
For me, it came through finally realizing that the only opinion that truly mattered was my wife's, my family, my unit, right? So once she gave me her blessing, man, she said yes. I fucking
right, yeah.
I wrote the 2 weeks notice. I went and submitted it to my employer. I thanked them, and he was Steve Carrillo here. He's local here too. He did an amazing thing. He supported me. He says, "You know what, Armando? Hell yeah."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right. I knew this was gonna come. That's what he said to me. He said, "I knew this was gonna come. I just didn't know when, but it's here, and I wish you luck." And from that point on, he and I we've rented equipment from each other. We collaborate with each other, and I wish him all the success that he's earned and deserves. But yeah, I went off on my own, and here we are.
That was a long-winded answer, but that was all great information because, it's all information that I already knew, but, it's time for everybody else to hear it. I think, from a lot of the things that you had mentioned, it was just, and I'm not to say because we didn't mention any of the things that went bad, but a lot of the things sounded just like it just went your way. You were very blessed, a lot of the things, but like you said, towards the end of it is, when you have the support of your closest, tightest partner, which is your fiance or your wife, or, whoever that may be, that is the one, especially with you too, you need to make sure that, your heart's in it. Yeah. And you knew that your heart was in it still when you were in Texas. So you got the taste of it, you got everything. So, no, that's great, man. That's a great history of who Armando Soria is and where he came from, of the entrepreneur, start of it. Yeah. Did you ever have any, of course, regret is a hard thing to say, but did you ever have any regret or the what ifs as far as what if I were to went?
I'll be honest. Yeah. The biggest, not with like, since I've started my company, like I've been living my dream.
Sure.
Right. Uh, that's cool.
Right. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Prior to it, moving back, it was a challenge. I was very, very comfortable in Texas. I was very, very comfortable working with my best friend. We were killing it. We were making a name for ourselves. That franchise, Jared's franchise, that year won Rookie of the Year out of the,
Nice.
however many new franchises. Like we were, the names, like my name was known in the corporate world out there because of my reputation with Large Loss and Traveling Storm. We were Storm Team of the Year. Like we had a lot of accolades, and I really wanted my own franchise. And so not only that, but I also enjoy the freedoms of Texas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love hunting. We had a nice hunting land that we had access to over there. That was just life for
Different.
we kind of grew up in Texas in a way. It's like I'm born and raised here in Salinas, but we left as kids, and we had our two girls in Texas. They were both born in Sugar Land. My youngest daughter Mia, she goes, "That's why I'm so sweet, because I was born in Sugar Land." So it was hard to come back, man, and especially just because growing up in Salinas in the 90s was kind of rough, and I'm thinking about the well-being of my kids. Also Houston and San Antonio, like the school systems in the ISDs in Texas are phenomenal. So it's like, oh man, like I went to Natividad Elementary School, man. It was a little rough, I went to Hardin, I went to North High, So I'm like just playing it over my head, and I'm like, okay, well, no regrets, because family's here, and to have my kids grow up around their grandparents is something that's pretty special, and not everyone gets to do. And then secondly, that's when it came to me, I'm like we talked about this all the time. It's like, we're going to come back, man. We're going to do it right. We're going to create an impact. We're going to make this place better than it was like during our time. And so that's kind of helped alleviate some of that. And so now in hindsight, every move that we made, every discussion my wife and I had, totally worth it. Totally worth it. We are where we're supposed to be, and I'm living my purpose.
I definitely, can attest to that. I think because of the fact that, I don't know if this is too early in the show, but you are creating a ripple effect. And I think, a lot of the things that I learned from you personally as your friend, and, you, like we talked about it before, like you spent a lot of time, and still today, on personal development. And, a lot of the things that you're doing today, you got LLS, you got, we have our mastermind, we have all these different things that you're doing. You're definitely creating an impact. And I think you've always had that in you. It's just now, let's create it. Let's create that impact. So, hats off to you again. Thanks, man. This is amazing. And you also have a podcast. So you have a podcast. Today I have a podcast. But no, this is great, man. It's great, to hear where you got your start at. And, let's talk a little bit more about what you're doing today. Like, what are you involved with today that you're most proud of?
Well, first and foremost, most proud of is my family, right? Of course, you got to go there first. And that, my two girls, Mia and Sophia, 8 and 10 respectively. And of course, Marisol doing very well in her own career, in her own right. So that's incredible. And I'm super blessed, because without Marisol, there'd be no ripple effect for Soria. There wouldn't be no Armando. Not the Armando now. You know what I mean? She's held me accountable for a long time. We've been married for since 2012. 11 years, and we've been dating for like 20 plus, because we got together in high school. So she's been keeping me, keeping you in line. Oh, big time. Yeah. But no, as far as what I'm involved with or what I'm proud of, I mean, the business first and foremost. It's so easy to get caught up in the personal development and everything else that we got going on with the nonprofits that we work with and all that. And I'm very, very, very proud of the philanthropy. But the business, man, I'm extremely proud of my team. I'm extremely proud of where we are in, we're going to hit 3 years in January. You know what I mean? And we've grown 100%. Year 1 to year 2, now year 2 to year 3, we're there as far as top line revenue goes. but more importantly, we're there with personnel. And what I take the most pride in is the team, because I poured into them, man. I poured into them, but they've returned the favor,
Right,
so to
yeah.
speak. They paid their dues to earn that mentorship and that leadership from me, man. And so I do what I can to prepare myself to be able to pour into them. Samantha, Alfonso, Arnie, Daniel and Ivan, man, they're the real ones out there, man.
Yeah.
And they're allowing me again to live my dream, and they're allowing me to fulfill my purpose and the business's purpose. Beyond the business, and of course, water damage restoration.
Right.
I don't even think we talked about too much about that, like on the show. But
Yeah.
so I own a property damage restoration company where we specialize in water damage restoration, mold remediation, fire and smoke mitigation, man. So we're the ones that get called in when shit hits the fan, so
Yeah.
to speak, right?
Yeah.
But beyond the career, beyond the business, the philanthropy that we're involved with, I'm super proud of that, man. I sometimes, like, I got to take a minute to process, right? And to just be,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And when I think about it, and to be able to say that we are, we as a company, because philanthropy is one of our core values in the company, man. So, like, part of the Rotary, we're out handing out dictionaries to kids, to all the third graders in the LSL school district. I had my employees out with me, man.
Yeah.
They're handing out dictionaries, you know what I mean? Through the Chamber of Commerce Foundation, we have CST, the Children's Shopping Tour, coming up. My team is going to be there. I signed them up to be chaperones.
Good.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
they're looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Through the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, I'm working with people like Alex, people like you. You know what I mean? The community's coming together to support,
Sure.
the cause,
Yeah.
the battle, the fight against blood cancer, man.
Right.
I mean, to be in a position to do the things I'm doing is a complete blessing, and it only comes through, and it's only there to the capacity that I'm doing it because of the success that the business is providing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is incredible, because I remember when I was asked, like, why do I want my own business? I'm
Right.
like, I want to make my own time,
Yeah.
have my own schedule.
Yeah.
That's a load of bullshit.
That's all bullshit.
You know what I mean? No, it is success. I want
Yeah.
the success. I
Yeah.
want to make the money. I want to create the impact, because the more that successful the business is, the more
Yeah.
people I could impact, the more employees I could bring on, the more I could give back, the more we could contribute to the community
Mhm.
as a whole. So now it's like a completely different monster,
Yeah.
and a completely different drive that's pushing us, what I mean?
Yeah. And I think, with that's very, very important. With my business, I'm a, owner operator, so I'm my own boss. And, I ask myself if I can have a day off. But I think with you, that's what's important, because I've worked with your team, on a couple different
Yeah.
jobs with Spiffy, and I can see, that they're not, because I remember being, working for an employer. It's been a long time since I worked for anybody, but especially when you're younger, you kind of want to, mess around and, mess around the job site, whatever. But, those guys, and I don't know if it was because I was there and they know how, the
Yeah,
friendship that we
man.
have, they're like, oh, we
They don't want you to tell
got
them,
an
man.
unofficial foreman here, but,
yeah.
but, it's important that what you're doing with your team, with your business, because you're not only just taking, you're not being the face of the company, but you're saying, hey, you're always telling them. I mean, I always hear you say, like, I'm always giving praise to my team. I'm always giving praise to my team. And by including them and doing things like that, as far as with the Rotary and the children's, the
Shopping tour.
That's amazing that they're willing to, because some people are like, oh, I got a thing that day,
Yeah,
but they're
yeah.
there, and some things do come up, but
Right.
it's important to see, the team that you're building. And I remember, I know that you've told me about how you tell them what you learned from whatever conference
Right.
that you went to.
Yeah.
You pour back into them Monday morning or whatever day it is, and they're all listening, and they've started, a couple of them even started 75 hard when you were
Yeah.
on it. So you're definitely a mentor to them. I know you say you don't like to be called a coach or a coach, but
Right.
you're your own coach of your team.
Yeah.
And so you're definitely coaching your team. And
Right.
so, again, hats off to you, because you're definitely creating an impact. I mean, you're involved in a lot of different things. We've mentioned a few different things. You're even, involved in we said LLS, the Rotary, the with MCAR.
Yeah.
You have a lot of different, how do you say, things, nonprofits that you're with, and you're everybody knows who you are. And, I haven't heard one bad thing yet, so keep the 5-star going.
No, I appreciate that, man. And that we're initially getting involved with the community. The big part of that, it's like as far as strategy goes, strategic move is the brand awareness, right? We wanted to create brand awareness. We wanted to give back for two reasons, right? Obviously, I shared with you the family background and why we wanted to make sure we came back and did our job and gave back. But at the same time, to align with wanting to be a successful business, you have to, man. You have to be involved. You have to give back. You have to be out there, right? And at least I believe so, right? And so I've been fortunate that again, because of the team being in place and the processes and systems that we build, it allows me then to be out and do things like this. I mean, it's a Thursday at 12:30 right now, and my team is working on a project. And yeah, I get text messages, alerts, and that kind of thing, but they're following the process and the systems. And of course, once we break free, I'm going to check in on them and make sure everyone's good to go. But it's just part of the deal, man.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's good, man. Well, again, I think this is why I wanted to kind of take control of this this show today, is because I wanted to make sure that people, saw the other side of the table and got to know a little bit about you, a little bit more. One of the last questions I have for you is, what do you have as far as, with what you're doing today? What does the future bring for you, your family, and for Soria?
Growth, man, growth, both personally and professionally. Casting a vision is where I'm at right now, and I'm still working on that vision. I still don't know what that vision looks like. I'm working towards it. I think I had Chris Warrens in here some time ago, and I told him at that point that I still didn't have a vision. And it's because it's something that I don't take lightly. And it's also because I'm still overcoming in my own right some of that limited beliefs, some of that scarcity mindset, some of that negative money mindset, right? Because being that we grew up lower middle class and that we're overcoming these hurdles and learning that it's okay to have money. It's not the root of all evil. It's hard to cast a huge vision, but what I'm learning is that the vision that I initially had wasn't big enough, right? The goals that I had when I opened up the business weren't big enough. The goals I had last year weren't big enough. The goals I had this year weren't big enough, right? So as I'm learning that through my own growth and journey, I'm realizing that I have to take the time to create that vision of what my legacy looks like. We got to think big. And I know that it involves, growth, as growing the company, scaling the business. There may be verticals involved. There may be acquisition of property so that we don't have to pay rent, But the biggest thing of all is I want, and of course we're talking long term. There's no definite timeline, but we've talked about it before, man. Is I want our business, our logo, I want our company to be known as a staple here in the community. I want to have deep enough impact that people talk about us in high regard as far as what we've contributed. Not everyone's going to love you. You know what I mean? And thank you for saying that you haven't heard anything negative. But the truth is you're not going to appease everyone. And it could be projections of their own insecurities, or it could just be not being aligned with the person. And that's okay. I'm learning that too. Right. But if I could sleep at night knowing that I've done everything I can to take care of my tribe, take care of my family, and take care of my community, then I'm doing it right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're filling your cup. Definitely.
That's it.
Well, one last thing, I know I said last question. One last thing, I wanted to kind of it was important because it's something that we're both continuing to work on. If you can give, however you want to take it, the subject of resetting. What is it? I know that we're both learning to deal with resetting and starting over and being okay with it. What does resetting mean to you?
Yeah, man. So this kind of ties into where I said I'm not a coach, right? Like, yes, as a leader, as a manager, as a supervisor, as a CEO, as a president, you are a mentor. You're a mentor to your team. The people that are underneath you, you have to wear that with pride and do what you can to pour in and to mentor them and to inspire them and to grow your people, right? with that being said, I don't want to I have to tread carefully with that because right now everyone's a coach, everyone's a mentor, everyone looks perfect online, man. Everyone's killing it, everyone's slaying. They go out and rent the Lambo and they take a picture next to it and say, I'm the next coach and follow my system, $39 or $360 a month. The thing about that is like, I am not one of those people, dude. I am so far from being like where I need to be. I've been making strides and we're growing, but the thing is that I stumble and I fall, right? I haven't been at the point where I fired in every single at the mindset, the heart set, the soul set, and the health set all at the same time. There's always one piece that's been missing. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so like when it comes to dieting and eating better, that's where I'm at. I need to regain control of my, the health set right now. That's I'm trying to get back to that. And so the reset button, right, is you're going to stumble, you're going to fall, whether it's breaking a diet, whether it's not following your time blocking, whether it's implementing a system and then falling off as a business, you know what I mean? You're always going to stumble. There's always going to be, obstacles that take you off course. But that reset button's beautiful, man. And the thing about that is that like many of people won't even bother hitting the reset. What they tend to do is an obstacle comes, they fall off course, and then they throw their hands up and say, I gave up. Well, I refuse to give up, dude. So I'll hit that reset button as many times as I need to, because as long as I keep getting back up and fighting the good fight, then I'm doing what I can and what I need to be doing. So when we talk about the reset button, we just talked about it with the team. I said, hey, listen, we developed these systems. We haven't been following them. But that's okay. Let's go ahead and let's figure out what's going on. Let's get to the bottom of it. But moving forward today, we're hitting that reset button. Whether that's, and then me on my personal life, I'm like, hey, Marisol. Hey, man, we were smashing that pizza, dude. Hey, we got to hit that reset button, But no matter how many times it takes, man, I think it's the willingness to want to continue to push to become the best version of yourself. It's worth hitting that reset and starting anew.
And I think any health coach is, kind of talking on that, and, as an example, is any health coach or any, dietitian or whatever, they wouldn't be okay with what we're going to say, or what I'm about to say is, I think when you buy the Peloton, you buy the, the treadmill, you buy all these weights, you turn your little small gym into a big gym. And you get into it, you work out. I mean, I'm guilty of that too. And so my fiance Olivia is going to be listening to this and be like, yeah, that bench,
sounds about right.
Those weights have been collecting dust, but
the clothes hanger.
Yeah, the clothes hanger. Actually, it is. And so, but I think, to get back on them, to say, if it's not Monday, it's Sunday, Saturday, whatever, but just to say that willingness to continue to get back on it, get back on that horse.
You got to give yourself a little grace.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And look, at the same time, like, look, you can't also, it's a balance, right? You can't just live in a world of excuses. You got to hold yourself accountable. Right. That's first and foremost. Right. And that's kind of where that reset whole thing, that's where the conversation comes from, is I get down on myself, man. When I fuck up, like I get really down on myself. I'm like, man, I can't believe I didn't maintain, because, I have a power list, right? And I put my W if I win the day, or an L if I lose the day. And then like, if I get too many L's, then it's like, right? Yeah. And I get down on myself. Right. But rather than that, it's like, nah, dude, that's your testimony, right? I think it was Rob Bailey who just said that. He's like, no, dude, keep an inventory of your wins and your losses, so that once you're winning continuously and you have the discipline built and you're going through and just kicking ass and taking names, you can always reflect back and see what you overcame, all those L's, and now see where you are, right? So you got to hold yourself accountable. I'm not saying like this,
Right, and I don't think we're saying, I don't want, anybody listening, I don't want them to think like, we're thinking like, just because we have reset, it's an easy button.
Right,
like,
no. But the fact of the matter is, as hard as I am on myself, I do have to give myself grace, and that allows me then to be able to hit that reset button and to go hard again. And, we're not hitting it every weekend. We're not hitting it every Monday. What I mean? But the point is that, there is something to be said there. Give yourself the grace to get back up and to do the things that you want to do and implement the things that you want to do, whether it's professionally or personally.
Yeah, for sure. Well, man, I think this is what I wanted. This is what I was excited for. So, I don't know. Anything else you want to say to the world when that,
Yeah, man. No, I mean, this is cool, man. I appreciate you're a good host, man. You should start your own podcast, bro. But no, I think primarily it's just that, like, I'm excited to share the journey, because ultimately I think that's what I wanted to say. I didn't, it's funny, just like everything else, this podcast has evolved. It's taken up its own shape and its own legs, and it's moving along now, right? And I'm really proud of what we've done with the, I think 11 episodes prior to this one. And thank you, shout out to Mag One. But the thing about it is, like, this podcast, it's not so much to tell people how to do things, right? Because we don't got it figured out. I'm just figuring it out, man.
Yeah.
The purpose of this podcast, as it stands now, it's number one, to inspire and to encourage and to motivate by bringing on great guests and people to share their experience and their journeys. I mean, we had Chris Spencer on that has 2 decades of business ownership that you could really learn a lot from. But at the same time, this is valuable because what I want to do is to make sure that people understand that my purpose is to share my journey. I'm in the process of, right? Not that I have it figured out,
Right.
but I'm in the process of the journey. And hopefully if you're in the process too, you realize that you're not alone, and we all go through the doubt. We all go through the mindsets. We all go through the reset buttons
Right,
and
yeah.
the grace and everything that we talk about on the show. So that's what the ripple effect is, man.
Yeah.
That's what this show's supposed to be. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit about me.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that we could do it again soon whenever we got something on our minds, man.
Yeah,
But
well, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for everything that you've done. Thank you for the opportunity to host your show. And I don't know, just go ahead and I'll let you close it out.
all right, everyone. Tony Sanchez, man, thanks for being here. We're going to post all the socials just like always. Tony Sanchez, again, was our first guest. So this is kind of nice to be full circle. And I'm sure we're going to see you again because we got to touch base with you and see what you've done since the last time we've talked with all your many hats and all your branding and all the good stuff that we shared on episode 2. So if you got any value, if you enjoyed the show, if you've learned anything or just want to support, do us a favor and make sure you share the show so that we could get more exposure and create a bigger impact. I appreciate you all for listening. Tony, I appreciate you, my friend. We'll talk soon, brother.
Thank you, man. Thank you.